जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरवरधारी। जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुनातीरा वनचारी। यमुनातीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोच्चरित श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। नमाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासती गौर भक्त वृंद की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की। वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की। गंगा माई यमुना माई की। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की। समवेत भक्त वृंद की। गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, Renunciation of Kardama Muni, verse number 34. Samabhiprichedya patim prajanam tvayavartinar is Tvaya avatirnarnaha Tvaya avatirnarnaha Utapakamaha Parivrajat Padavim Asitoham Charishye Tvam Hridi Yunjan Vishokaha असमाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् असमाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् असमाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् त्वया वारिनाथ उतापकामः त्वयावतीर्णार्न उतापकामः त्वयावतीर्णार्न उतापकामः परिव्रज पदवीम् आसितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वं हृदि उञ्जयन् विशोकः असमाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् त्वया वार्तिनार्न उतापकामः परिव्रजात् पदवीम् असितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वां हृदि उञ्जन् विशोकः असमाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् त्वया वार्तिनार्न उतापकामः परिव्रज पदवीम् आशितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वं हृदि उञ्जयन् विशोकः त्वयावतीर्णार्न उतापकामः परिव्रज पदवीम् आसितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वं हृदि उञ्जन् विशोकः असामभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् त्वयावतीर्णार्न उताप्तकामः परिव्रज पदवीम् असितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वं हृदि उञ्जन् विशोकः असमाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् त्वयावतीर्णार्न उतापकामः परिव्रजात् पदवीम् असितोऽहम् चरिष्ये तं हृदि उञ्जन् विशोकः माताजी असामाभिपृच्छेद्य पतिं प्रजानम् त्वयावतीर्णार्न उतापकामः परिव्रजात् पदवीम् असितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वं हृदि उञ्जन् विशोकः त्वयावतीर्णार्न उतापकामः परिव्रजात् पदवीम् असितोऽहम् चरिष्ये त्वं हृदि उञ्जन् विशोकः असमाभिपृच्छे I'm inquiring Adya now Patim the Lord Prajanam of all created beings, Tvaya, by you, avatirnaranaha, free from debts, Uta, and Apta, fulfill, Kamaha, desires, Parivrajat, of an eternal mendicant, Padavim, the path, Asitaha, accepting, Aham, I, cherishe, I shall wander, Tvam, you, Hridi, in my heart, Yunjan, keeping, Vishokaha, free from lamentation. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Today I have something to ask from you, who are the Lord of all living entities. Since I have now been liberated by you from my debts to my Father, and since all my desires are fulfilled, I wish to accept the order of an itinerant mendicant, renouncing this family life. I wish to wander about, free from lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart. Purport. Actually, sannyas or renunciation of material household life necessitates complete absorption in Krishna consciousness and immersion in the self. One does not take sannyas, freedom from family responsibility in the renounced order of life, to make another family or to create an embarrassing transcendental fraud in the name of sannyas. The sannyasi's business is not to become proprietor of so many things and amass money from the innocent public. A sannyasi is proud that he is always thinking of Krishna within himself. Of course, there are two kinds of devotees of the Lord. One is called Goshanandi, which means those who are preachers and have many followers for preaching the glories of the Lord, and who live among those many followers just to organize missionary activities. Other devotees are Atmanandi, or self-satisfied, and do not take the risk of preaching work. They therefore remain alone with God. In this classification was Kardama Muni. He wanted to be free from all anxieties and remain alone within his heart with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parivraja means an itinerant mendicant. A mendicant sannyasi should not live anywhere for more than 3 days. He must be always moving because his duty is to move from door to door and enlighten people about Krishna consciousness. The sense of purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuruntam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone for today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So in this verse number 34, basically Kardama Muni continues his conversation with Lord Vishnu, who has appeared in the form of Lord Kapila. And in the previous verses, we have seen how Lord Kapila is glorifying the Lord. And in the current verse, we see that basically Kardamumuni is expressing his desire. Basically, he says that since I have now been liberated by you from my debts to my father, and since all my desires are fulfilled, I wish to accept the order of an itinerant mendicant. Renouncing this family life, I wish to wander about, free from lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart. So this is a desire which is expressed by Kardamuni to the Lord. Basically, he says three things. What are those three things? First thing is that he wants to renounce his family life. And second thing is that he wished to wander about, free from lamentation. That's the second thing. And the third thing he says is that he always wants to think always of the Lord in his heart. So this is how Kardamumuni has expressed his desire to take sannyas and leave his family life and wander freely without any lamentation and always constantly thinking of the Lord in his heart. And in the purport, Prabhupada explains about the process of Krishna consciousness, especially the sannyas order of life, where one gives up the material household life and takes to the sannyas. And he explains the business of a sannyasi and how he is preaching in a missionary spirit. And he also mentions about the two types of sannyasis, one who is always preaching and the other one who is self-satisfied, Atmanandi. And so basically, I would like to start with an example. So I hope you all know the fig fruit, right? Some of you may be having this fruit, may be your favorite fruit, figs, right? So how many of you know how the fig is pollinated? How is it pollinated? There's a wasp inside. Because see, the fig fruit is very unique fruit. It is called as a synconium fruit. Synconium basically means that usually the flowers are outside, right? Like you have flower outside, and the bee kind of pollinates the flower, and that's how the flower becomes a fruit. But in the case of a fig, it is opposite. The flower is actually inside. You see that in the second picture, you can see all the red, dots. Those are flowers. But actually, the flower is inside. So now someone may ask, if the flower is inside, then how is it pollinated, right? I mean, how does it turn into a fruit? So basically, if you see this fig fruit, at the bottom you see a small hole, very, very tiny small hole. And there's a wasp. There's a tiny wasp, basically, which enters through this small hole at the bottom of the fruit. And it enters inside. And it's basically a female wasp. It's not a male wasp. It's a female wasp who enter inside the fruit to lay the eggs. And when this female wasp is entering inside this hole of the fig, the hole is so small that it kind of barely able to go through that hole. And in the course of this, this process, basically it loses its wings because, as it goes inside, it just loses its wings and antenna. So it's almost like a suicidal mission that once it goes inside, even if it comes out, it cannot fly. It's like a death trap for the female wasp. But still, it doesn't, it still goes inside, it loses its wings and and the antenna. And once it is inside, you can see the left picture is basically that wasp trying to crawl inside that fruit. It's a very difficult path to go inside this fruit. And once it enters successfully inside the fruit, it lays its eggs. It lays many eggs actually. It lays like hundreds of eggs. And you see these tiny dots, basically those are the flowers. So in the flower, in the small flower buds, it lays its eggs. And after it lays its eggs, basically, it cannot come out. The wasp basically, it dies. It dies within the fruit. The mother wasp dies within the fruit. And these eggs, eventually, the wasps come out of it, right? And when the wasps the baby wasp, when they come out of it, basically there are two things. When you have a male wasp, and you have female wasp, right? The male ones comes first, actually. The female ones take some time to hatch. And when the male wasp comes out first, basically they are orphans. There is no mother, right? It's just, by itself. And the male wasp, what it does is that it goes and impregnates the female wasp. Actually, the female wasp is not even fully developed, but even before the female wasp is fully developed, it impregnates the female wasp. And after it impregnates the female wasp, the second thing this male wasp does is that it digs a hole. You see the second picture? There are like black lines over there on the fruit. It's like a cross section. The left side you can see the wasp, and the right side you can see the holes which are dug by this male wasp. So basically, it is just trying to get out of this wasp because, who likes to stay in a wasp forever, right? It just tries to get out. And its whole life, it tries to dig this hole to get out, but by the time it actually digs the hole, it dies. It's gone because the wasp doesn't live for a long time. It just stays for just a few days. This whole process just lasts for like 3 or 4 days. And by the time the female wasp is fully developed, and this female wasp, when it's developed, it's already pregnant. Basically, it's already impregnated by the male wasp, right? And this female wasp will go through this fig fruit by the holes which is already dug by this male wasp. So it doesn't have to waste its time. You can see, this picture, you can see the female wasp coming out of this fruit, which is already, impregnated, and it just flies away from the fruit, and the same cycle continues. The female cycle will go and again try to find one more fig fruit, and again it tries to enter. It's a suicidal mission, right? It loses its wings, it loses its antenna, again it lays eggs. So this is a cycle. Now someone may ask, how is it pollinated? The pollination happens because you see this on the left side, you can see this wasp. When it is trying to come out, basically its whole body is covered by this white colored dust. It's basically pollen. So that is how the pollination happens. The pollen goes from one fruit to other fruit so that the fig is pollinated and the fig fruit, fructifies. So this is a very, very unique and very interesting example. There are so many things we can actually analyze just from this one example of the life of a wasp and the life of the fig fruit, how it is pollinated. Because this actually perfectly captures the life of a conditioned soul, how a conditioned material life of a living entity is, right? Because if you try to analyze the way this wasp is thinking, how the activity of this wasp, like how is it feeling, how is it analyzing this situation, it is just like human beings, right? Like it's the same thing. Like, you see the female wasp, right? The female wasp is like a mother. And this mother, basically, it is trying to protect its babies, right? So it is even sacrificing its own life by entering this fig fruit so that he can lay the eggs in a very safe place, right? And this shows how this female wasp is even ready to sacrifice its own life. And it basically shows a motherly love. And on the other hand, the male wasp, you can clearly see, there are two things. The first thing is that it has a very strong sex desire. The minute it is born, it is trying to find a female wasp to impregnate. And it doesn't even care whether it's a sibling, right? It's a sister. But it goes and impregnates the female wasp. And the female wasp is not even fully developed by the time. And it just doesn't care. It just goes and impregnates this female wasp. And the second thing this male wasp does is that it tries to work hard. It's working so hard. It is trying to come out of this enclosed space, trying to find, release itself, try to find the happiness by just getting out of this fig. But by the time it actually comes out of this fig, actually it is dead and gone. So this shows the psychology of the female and the male and how the creation is happening based upon this conditioning of the living entity. And how the male wasp is trying to come out of this fig fruit and trying to find the happiness. But before it tries to find its happiness, it is dead and gone. So if you see in the previous chapter, like right now we are in the 20th chapter, but if you look at the 20th chapter when the Brahma is creating this universe, it is said that the first thing Brahma creates is ignorance. That's very interesting. Sasarja chayaya avidyam Pancha pravanam agrataha tamisram andatamisram tamo moha maha tamaha. Basically, it says that, first of all, it says first, basically Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls. These are 5 in number, called Tamisra, Andatamisra, Tamas, Moha and Mahamoha. Because you see, for the creation to happen, it relies on the ignorance of these living entities, right? If the living entities are smart, then how will the nature go on, right? So ignorance is required for creation to happen. And that is why Brahma creates ignorance first. And this ignorance is created in 5 different levels. Tamas, Moha, Mahamoha, Tamisra and Andatamisra. Tamas basically means considering something unreality as reality. Means thinking that oneself to the body, which is unreal, but you think that that is reality. That's an ignorance. And Moha basically means illusion. That when you think that you are this body, then you are in illusion. That is called Moha. And Mahamoha basically means it's an intense desire for material enjoyment. And then you have Tamisra. Basically, Tamisra means anger. Basically, when you are not able to satisfy this strong desire for sense gratification, then that leads to anger or hatred. And ultimately, even when you acquire whatever you acquire, able to gather some material objects, but ultimately you may lose them at the time of your death. And that is the ultimate fear in every living entity, which is called Andatamisra, means fear of death. So in this way, we can see how this material creation is happening because of the ignorance of these living conditioned souls, and how are they bound up in this birth, in the cycle of birth and death, and how they are very strongly conditioned by Maya. That is why if one has to overcome this Maya, one needs to have this knowledge. Because that is the root, that is how we can destroy the ignorance. And however, this knowledge has to simultaneously happen along by surrendering to the Supreme Lord. Because Mayavadis also can agree the same thing. Yes, avidya is a root cause. Then what is the solution? Solution is vidya. No. Vidya has to happen along with surrendering to the Lord. Because just knowledge alone is not sufficient for oneself to be free. That is why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says, Daivi Eshai Gunamai, Mama Maya Durataya, Maameve Prapadyante, Maya Metam Tarantite. Because unless you surrender, it is very, very difficult to come out of this Maya. That is why even though the Mayavadis realize that you are not this body, but the spiritual soul, right? Aham Brahmasmi, but that is an imperfect, or not imperfect, but incomplete realization of the transcendental knowledge. So, in this way, now someone can ask this question, now how do we destroy this ignorance? How do we destroy this ignorance? That is where in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tasmat ajnana sambhutam hridstam jnanastita atmanaha. Basically, he says that, O Arjuna, these doubts which have arisen in your heart of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. So in this way, one is equipped with this transcendental knowledge, one can destroy this ignorance. Like if you go back to this example, this male wasp, actually, you know what, if you really think this example of this fig pollination, the male wasp doesn't really need to dig a hole, because the hole is already there at the bottom, right? It could have actually easily come out of that hole, but it doesn't do that. It tries to dig a new hole. By the time it digs a new hole, it is actually dead and gone. So that's intelligence. But it doesn't do that. Of course, if the male wasp is so intelligent, then the female wasp will never come out. Because if the female wasp has to dig a hole, then by the time the female wasp comes out, it is dead. So anyway, so basically that's how the ignorance is, and that's how the living entities are conditioned in this material world, and that's how the creation is also happening. And so in this way, if one has to come out of this conditioned life, one has to have this transcendental knowledge. And now the question is that, now for us to acquire this transcendental knowledge, what are the requirements? And what are the concomitant effects of acquiring such transcendental knowledge? That's where Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, the last verse, which he says, Shraddhava labhate jnanam tat para samayeti indriyaha. Jnanam labdva param shantim achirendra gacchati. Basically, he says that a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge, who subdues his senses, is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So this is where Krishna indicates what is a requirement for one to acquire this transcendental knowledge. What is the requirement? One of the requirements is that one should be able to control his senses. Controlling his senses is one of the prime necessity for one to acquire this knowledge. And Prabhupada, in one of the lecture, he actually gives a lecture on this verse on Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Tat para samayeti indriyaha, means, and the result of my knowledge is that one should be restrained in the matter of sense gratification. You cannot become progressive in spiritual life if you indulge in unrestricted sense gratification, because sense gratification is the cause of our bondage in this material world. And the whole treatment, progressive in spiritual life, is regulated. Of course, we have got senses, and the senses require some satisfaction. That is all right. There is no question of stopping the senses. It is not possible if we want to stop the work of the senses. That is not possible. Simply, we have to purify the senses. Labdva jnanam param shantim. And when you are situated in that perfectional stage of knowledge, then you get param shanti, the perfect peacefulness of mind. Param shantim adhigacchati. Now, these are the prescription laid down by Krishna, Lord Krishna. So this is where basically Prabhupada mentions that for one to acquire this transcendental knowledge, one has to regulate and control his senses. Because without controlling one's senses, one cannot actually progress in one's spiritual life. And what happens? Basically, the thing is that we are all servant. We are not master, right? We are all servant, and either we can become servant of the senses, or we can become servant of Krishna. But when we become servant of Krishna, then we actually become the master of senses, Goswami. Goswami basically means the master of senses. So we have two choices, right? So either we become a servant of our senses or servant of Krishna. But by becoming servant of Krishna, we actually control our senses and become the master of senses and acquire this transcendental knowledge through which one can escape from the cycle of birth and death and get liberated. And that is where basically in the current verse, Prabhupada talks about the importance of taking sannyas or renouncing material household life. Here Prabhupada says in the purport, actually sannyas or renunciation of material household life necessitates complete absorption in Krishna consciousness and immersion in the self. So basically, unless one is able to, fully detach and completely give up these material, desires and this desire for sense gratification, one cannot perfectly situate himself in 10% Krishna conscious platform. That is why, it is recommended that at least towards the end of one's life, one has to be completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness without any material attachments. And interestingly, he makes it one more point. In the second line of purport, he says, one does not take sannyas, freedom from family responsibilities, in the renounced order of life, to make another family or create an embarrassing transcendental fraud in the name of sannyas. Now, this is a very interesting thing, because sometimes we see people renouncing one's material, family life, but they build one more family life. I remember one example, in India, I was going to this temple, one ISKCON temple, and there was this brahmachari. And this brahmachari basically, he gave up his, family life, and then he was staying in the ashram. And, he used to go out every day, and he used to, meet different families, and he used to preach them. And over a period of time, he actually made, have a lot of relationships, and he has a lot of friends for all his family members. And whenever these people used to come to temple, they used to bring like different items, like some fruits or paratas or, something like that. And they used to ask, where is this brahmachari? I'm looking for him. I'm waiting for him. I don't even mind waiting for some time, in the temple. And this brahmachari used to feel, I gave up this family life on one place. And here it's look like, they have now one more mother, one more grandmother, one more sister, It's like now you have a bigger family, right? I mean, that defeats the whole point, right? So in this way, that's why Prabhupada says that one does not take sannyas, freedom from family responsibilities in renounced order of life, to make another family. I mean, that's basically you're defeating the whole point of renouncing in the first place. So that is why, it is recommended that a sannyasi, basically that's why he travels, that he's not attached to or not in one place, but he travels and he doesn't stay more than 3 days, ideally, as prescribed in the Shastras. So he travels basically, without any lamentation, without any worrying about his, everyday maintenance. So that is basically the spirit of sannyasi. And even in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, basically there are some important qualities of a sannyasi. And out of there are many qualities, but the first 3 things Krishna mentions is that Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitaha. Fearlessness, spiritual knowledge, and purity. Out of many qualities, actually Krishna picks these 3 first, these as the most important first 3 qualities: fearlessness, spiritual knowledge, and purity. See, fearlessness, how one becomes fearless? As long as one is having any material desires, as long as he's having a sense, an inclination for sense gratification, there is always fear. Because the fear is actually one of the 5, symptoms of ignorance, right? Because fear basically means you're going to lose what you have, right? But a sannyasi, basically, he's not having any attachment. He's fearless. He's carefree. That is why he can be perfectly fearless. And spiritual knowledge and purity. Because spiritual knowledge is also required. That is the whole point. Basically, in the upcoming chapters, we will read about this Sankhya philosophy, right? Where you analytically understand the mind, body, senses, and all those things. On one hand, it's okay to understand those things, but we must also realize what is the ultimate, goal, what is the ultimate objective of acquiring such knowledge. The ultimate goal is that one becomes renounced, one becomes detached by analytically understand. See, the thing is that we use this word conditioned life, conditioned living entity. But how much we are conditioned, right? That is what Sankhya tells you. Sankhya analytically shows or presents how much we are conditioned. Like, because a pure spirit soul, it is neither a female, neither a male, neither a wasp, nor a female wasp, or neither a male wasp. But because of the strong conditions, that a living entity is illusioned. And by acquiring this knowledge of Sankhya and the spiritual knowledge, the transcendental knowledge, one will be able to understand how deeply his conditions are. And in that way, basically, he can eventually free himself from this condition by performing devotional service. And here, of course, Prabhupada further mentions about the duties of a sannyasi. Basically, he makes a classification by saying that there are 2 types of sannyasis: the one who is on a preaching mission, and the other one who is self-satisfied. Of course, I want to talk like a couple of other things, but anyway, I'll just talk one last thing and I'll conclude. But, one can actually raise an objection that actually there are 5 things which are prohibited in Kali Yuga. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said 5 things. Does anyone remember what are the 5 things which are prohibited in Kali Yuga? Yeah, yes, so, yeah, so basically, the horse sacrifice, and giving the cow in the sacrifice, offering flesh to the forefathers, and getting the child in the brother of the husband, and the sannyas, right? These 5 things are actually avoided in Kali Yuga. Then someone can raise an objection. If the sannyas is something which is prohibited in Kali Yuga or not given in Kali Yuga, then why is it that sannyas being promoted? right? Why is it promoted? So there are many reasons. Actually, this is one reason which I have found, which is basically given in the ISKCON Sannyas ministry, and it is mentioned in the Padma Purana, and it was brought up actually by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Basically, sannyas is actually of three types. It's mentioned in Padma Purana. It's called Veda Sannyas, Jnana Sannyas, and Karma Sannyas. So Veda Sannyas basically is Vaishnava Sannyas. And Jnana Sannyas basically is basically taken by the impersonalists, Mayavadis. And the Karma Sannyas, and both the Veda Sannyas and Jnana Sannyas is having the foundation of spiritual knowledge. But Karma Sannyas does not have any foundation of spiritual knowledge. It basically means people are frustrated with their material life and they just give up. So what is prohibited in Kali Yuga is actually Karma Sannyas. But the Veda Sannyas and Jnana Sannyas is allowed. It is not prohibited. So that is one of the explanations given why sannyas is even allowed in the Kali Yuga. And we can see actually, one of the chief minister, he was a politician in India. He was actually a movie actor, but he was very popular figure. And after, during his old age, basically he gave up his career of this movie field and he became a politician. He wanted to become a chief minister. And interestingly, the first thing he has done after becoming a politician is that he took sannyas. I mean, he put an orange clothes and he put a rudraksh. And I was like, it's like wondering, why this fellow is putting sannyas dress, I mean, yeah, it's attractive. It's attractive to the people that he's no longer, gave up all this, name and fame. Because, one of the 6 opulents, renunciation is also one of the opulents. It's attractive to the people. I mean, that person may or may not have any spiritual knowledge, but that sannyas is like karma sannyas. It is just basically, does not have any strong spiritual basis. So that kind of sannyas is prohibited in Kali Yuga, where people make a show out of sannyas and sometimes you will see politicians also, they wear in saffron dress, they come, they make a show. That kind of sannyas is actually prohibited in Kali Yuga. But otherwise, this Veda sannyas and Jnana sannyas, based on the transcendental knowledge, such kind of things are not prohibited in sannyas, and you can see all the acharyas also encouraging that thing. So that is just one clarification I wanted to give in this regards. Anyway, I like to conclude my talk here. Any questions or comments? Archit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for the nice presentation. As we have agreed, you will post your notes along with the lecture, but you have to make one correction.
Okay.
The second verse you quoted from the 4th chapter is actually 439. You have 442 for both of them.
Oh, yes, it's 439.
So, yeah,
yes,
it's 439.
Yeah, that is true.
So correct that before you post your notes.
Yeah, sure.
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
that is correct. Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments?
Thank you for a nice class. It's interesting that you mentioned about the sannyas order. I remember that in the early days when we joined Krishna consciousness, there were so many sannyasis that were going to became top politicians in India.
Okay, yeah.
They actually, they took this so-called, probably more like karma sannyas.
Yeah, yeah.
But what was really funny was that they would actually get into politics.
Yeah.
And they would actually get voted into the political position.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so funny. And I think that was another powerful, aspect of Prabhupada. He actually just completely shattered that. I mean, he would preach against it so heavy. And,
Yeah.
But you could see how people, there was no knowledge, there was no intelligence on this issue. But it just reminded me what you're saying. How
Yeah.
At one time, that was a real reality in India.
Yeah, that is true. Yes.
Like in the late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah, because sannyasis command some respect in the society, so they just want to kind of, get that respect.
Yeah.
And also people become attracted because, it shows that you're renounced, that you have nothing to do, you're not corrupted, or you're like selfless person. That's just an image they want to project.
Yeah.
That's
So
unfortunate reality.
This is a real reality that existed. So, and it was really funny because a lot of them would actually be like in some kind of political position and doing some, preaching and everything.
Yeah,
And they were
yeah.
in a sannyas garb.
Yeah,
And it was the craziest thing you could ever see. But anyway,
yeah.
just thought you reminded me of that particular situation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other? Okay. Nirantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki.